evening. Good evening. What a mighty, mighty God we serve. Angels bow before him. Heaven and earth adore him. What a mighty, mighty God we serve. What a blessing it is to be with each of you and for us to assemble ourselves together in our virtual sanctuary one more time. God has been good to us and allowing us another opportunity to come together and to study His Word. As always, it is my pleasure. I'm so delighted to see each and every one of you that tune in every week, join us every week in our virtual sanctuary. And I am grateful to God for each and every one of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being a part of this time of study. I'm excited tonight. I'm excited about what we're going to study. We're starting a new series tonight for the next 3 to 4 weeks. We're going to be sharing thematically, and I am excited about starting this Bible study series with each and every one of you. But before we get started, I want to invite you to invite others. I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. I'm inviting you to invite others. Share this live stream. Tag your family members, your friends, your associates, your relatives. Invite them to be a part of this time of study. I promise you, this is going to be a blessing to your life. I'm telling you, uh, this is going to be a blessing to you. I'm so excited. I can't wait to get into the lesson tonight and share with you what we've discovered, what we have, what we've studied and prepared for you on tonight. But that I hope that we can take full advantage of this time together. And one way to do that is by inviting others. Not to mention that we are commissioned to do so. Pivotal part of our existence, our purpose as believers is to carry the gospel. It is to accomplish and strive toward the great commission of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That is to carry the gospel around the world. And never in the history of humanity have we had a greater opportunity to do just that than we have right now. We have the opportunity literally to carry the gospel around the world. And it's so simple. It's so simple. Just hit that share button there at the bottom of your screen and invite others to be a part of this time of study. Very simple. Hit that share button. And then if you want to take it to the next level, tag your family, right? Type in your family's name and your friends' names and those that you'd like to share this time of study with. I guarantee you that this is going to be a blessing. As I said to you a few moments ago, we're starting a new series of study tonight. And I can't wait over the course of these next 4 weeks. I believe with all of my heart that what we're going to be sharing over these next 4 weeks is going to be a blessing to everyone who engages in this time of study with us. So tonight to get started in our first of these four lessons, we're going to take a look at one of the writings of Paul, uh, one of the more known, notorious writings of Paul, the Apostle Paul. 2 Corinthians chapter 10 is where I want to call your attention tonight. 2 Corinthians chapter 10. And we're going to look at verses 1 through 5 to start our study. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, and we're going to look at verses 1 through 5 during this Bible study. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 1, and I'm reading from the King James Version. It says, "Now I, Paul, myself, beseech you by the meekness and gentleness of Christ, who in presence am abased among you, but being absent am bold toward you. But I beseech you that I may not be bold when I am present with that confidence wherewith I think to be bold against some which think of us as if we walked according to the flesh." Verse 3 says, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds." Verse 5, it says, "Casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ." The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be unto God. For the next several weeks, I want to launch a series tonight. I'm going to be talking about, for the next 4 weeks, group therapy. Group therapy. That's what we're going to tag this series as, group therapy. And what we're focusing on during this time of study are healthy solutions for emotional discomfort. Healthy solutions for psychological pain and emotional discomfort. How do we address our emotional discomfort in a healthy and productive way? That's what we want to explore through the Word of God tonight. So these lessons have 3 objectives that we want to lift up over the course of these next several weeks. The first objective that we want to lift up, the first principle that we hope you can glean from this time of study, first of all, is to normalize the ubiquity of psychological and emotional pain. What does that mean? That means that we normalize the fact that everybody from time to time has emotional or experiences emotional discomfort. Yeah. Everybody from time to time experiences psychological pain. Yeah, everybody. It is universal. It is ubiquitous. And I think it's important to lift this as an objective because our culture paints the picture of just the opposite experience. Yeah, it is countercultural to accept and embrace and understand the fact that emotional discomfort and psychological pain is normative and ubiquitous. It's countercultural to accept that fact. Why? Because we want people to believe that we are always living our best life. We want people to believe that we are always unbothered. We want people to believe that we are always stress-free. And I'm not saying that every day is a hard day. I'm not saying every day is tumultuous and terrible. I'm not preaching doom and gloom, but I'm simply suggesting the reality that problems, challenges, issues, emotional discomfort is normal. It's normal. It doesn't mean anything is wrong with you. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. No, it is normal to have issues and challenges that we struggle with internally. It is normal. It is normal. No, you're not the black sheep. There's nothing about you that's so bad or so terrible that bad things just keep happening. No, it is normative. It is ubiquitous. It is universal. We all experience difficulties and from time to time emotional discomfort. And because it is normative, our second objective in this series of lessons is to identify healthy solutions for ubiquitous problems. Yeah, those are college words. Let me say it again. Our second objective is to identify healthy solutions for ubiquitous problems. What do I mean by that? Ubiquitous problems simply means universal problems, problems that we all have, issues that we all face, challenges that we all come up against. How do we identify healthy solutions for those ubiquitous problems? Stay with me. Stay with me. I know where I'm going. But then our third objective, after we lift the notion of normalizing the ubiquity of psychological and emotional pain, after we identify healthy solutions for ubiquitous problems, the third thing we want to do, a third objective in this series of lessons, is to gain comfort in the fact that God is with us in the midst of our struggles. We want to gain confidence in the fact that God never leaves us nor forsakes us. God does not leave us to suffer alone. God does not allow us to go through it by ourselves. Yeah, God is our comforter. God is our companion. God is with us wherever we find ourselves. It doesn't matter how difficult the internal pain might be. Doesn't matter how devastating the emotional or psychological discomfort may be. God is a present help. Can I get a witness? He is a present help in the time of trouble. God is always with us. He promises that he will never leave us nor forsake us. So, to start our discussion, to start our lesson, to start tackling and touching these objectives, let's start here. First of all, uh, every human, every person on the face of this earth experiences psychological and emotional discomfort. Everybody go through. Everyone has difficult days. Nobody's life is as good as they make it look on social media. Yeah, I know. We paint a picture on social media that our lives are perfect, that every day is a great day. We paint a picture. As a matter of fact, there are people who work in the industry of branding, yeah, and being an influencer. How many likes and comments you can get on social media? How many nods of approval and loves can you get on social media? And many people base their self-worth and their self-value on the brand that they can build on social media. But all I'm saying to you is it does not matter how good a person's life may look online. Everyone experiences psychological and emotional discomfort. Now, hear what I'm saying. Hear what I'm saying. This, catch what I'm saying. Don't grab what I'm not saying. Hear what I'm saying. What I'm not saying is that everyone experiences mental illness. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. That does not mean that everyone has or experiences a mental illness. Everyone experiences psychological and emotional discomfort, but I'm not saying that everyone experiences a mental illness. There is a difference between mental health and mental illness. There's a difference between the two. From time to time, everyone, here's what I'm saying, from time to time, everyone experiences issues, challenges, or even discomfort in their mental health. Whether it's a season that we experience grief because of the loss of a loved one, if we go through a season of sadness or a period where we feel depressed, times that we feel anxious, times that we feel antsy and irritable and frustrated, we all have challenges or issues that confront our mental health. But that does not mean that everyone experiences mental illness. As a matter of fact, across the board, only about 30% of the people, period, experience a diagnosable mental illness. Only about 30%. And I don't want to minimize that 30% because 30% does not sound like a large number. That's 3 out of 10. So most people never rise or their symptoms never rise to that level of a diagnosable mental illness. Only about 3 out of 10, only about 30%. But I don't want to minimize that 30% because that's not a big number until it's you. Yeah, that's not a big number until it's your husband. That's not a big number until it's your wife. That's not a big number until it's your son. That's not a big number until it's your daughter. Yeah, it doesn't sound big until it impacts you. Most people will never experience a diagnosable mental illness. But those who do, yeah, for those who do, it is impactful. But even though most of us will never experience a diagnosable mental illness, it does not change the normality of experiencing psychological pain and discomfort. As a matter of fact, all I'm trying to tell you with all these statistics, all these numbers, all of these big words, all I'm trying to tell you is this: having problems, experiencing difficulties is not abnormal. It's not abnormal to feel off sometimes. It's not abnormal to feel grief sometimes. It's not abnormal to feel anxious sometimes. As a matter of fact, the abnormality is when you never feel depressed. The abnormality is when you never feel sad. The abnormality is when you never feel anxious. The abnormality is when you never feel grief. It is a ubiquitous human experience to, from time to time, experience emotional discomfort. Yeah. Yeah. Adversity is normal. Yeah. Adversity, problems, challenges are ubiquitous. We all experience them. That's all I'm trying to say. And all I'm trying to say, it's normal to experience difficulty. And I think that's important. I think that's important. I think that's important. I've spent a lot of time explaining that because it's important, because you don't need to feel alone. You don't need to feel by yourself. You don't need to feel that there's something wrong with you. You don't need to feel that God is angry with you. No, no, it is ubiquitous. It is normative to have difficulties, to have adversity, and to have challenges in life. Yeah. People who are spiritual, people who are religious, tend to use their spirituality to help them make meaning from those adverse experiences. People who are spiritual, people who are religious, people, people who go to church, people who pray, tend to use their spirituality, their walk with God, to make meaning from their difficulties and their adverse experiences. It making meaning makes what we go through make more sense. I hope I said that right. When we can make meaning from our adversity, it helps our adversities make more sense. That in turn builds our resilience and our endurance when we're able to make meaning of the difficulty or adversity. But you have to be careful how you make meaning from your experiences. You have to be careful how you make meaning from your experiences. There are two ways of spiritual meaning making. And I'm going to get to the text. Just stay with me. I'm going somewhere. There are two avenues, if you will, of spiritual meaning making. One method of spiritual meaning making is called negative spiritual coping or negative spiritual meaning making. Here's what that means. We view the problem from the perspective that God is wrathful and angry, and God sent this problem as punishment for something that I did. I'm having problems because I'm a bad person. I'm having problems because I made bad decisions. And God is punishing me. God is sending retribution for the problems or for the things that I've done and causing these problems in my life. That is negative, unproductive spiritual meaning making. But on the other hand, you have positive spiritual meaning making. And that is looking at my problems, looking at my challenges from the perspective that no matter what I go through, God is on my side. Yeah. No matter how difficult it is, God is right in it with me. God is fighting with me. God is walking with me. God is running with me. God is overcoming with me whatever issues or challenges I might find myself making. So stay with me, stay with me, stay with me as we move closer to the text. I'm getting there. I'm just laying a foundation right now for the next several weeks of what we'll be discussing and studying. So there's positive spiritual meaning making, and then there's negative spiritual meaning making. But there are three styles in which we cope with our problems or our discomforts, if you will. There are three styles of spiritual coping. The first style of spiritual coping, and I've talked about this in Bible study before, it's called self-directed. It's called self-directed spiritual coping. Self-directed is the belief or the notion, the understanding that God has already put in me everything that I need to overcome every problem that I'll ever face. And that sounds good. That sounds good, but you have to be careful. You have to be careful because the problem that you can encounter with self-directed spiritual coping is that it can possibly lead you to a place of arrogance and pomposity. Yeah. Yeah. Self-directed spiritual coping can lead you to a place where you begin to believe, I did it. I overcame it. I dealt with it. I addressed it. I overcame that problem. I conquered that situation. Yeah. When it's self-directed, if you are not careful, you can get to a place where you find yourself demonstrating arrogance, where you find yourself demonstrating conceit. So you got to be careful with the self-directed spiritual coping. Not that it's wrong, but you do have to be mindful. The second way of spiritual coping is called deferred spiritual coping. And what deferred basically means, what that means is whatever problem I face, I know I can't do anything with it, so I just give it to God. I just put it in his hands. I just give it to him. I defer whatever I'm going through over to God. Sounds good. Sounds good. But you got to be careful. You got to be careful with deferred spiritual coping. Why? Because deferred spiritual coping, if you're not careful, can lead to a place of learned helplessness. Yeah. It can lead to a place of learned helplessness. It can put us in a place, in a state of mind where we begin to believe there's nothing I can do about what I'm going through. There's nothing I can do to impact or shape or control what I am experiencing. And learned helplessness is a dangerous place. It is a dangerous place. It is a dangerous place. It is a mentality. It is a mentality that I gotta wait for something or someone else to rescue me in whatever I'm going through. The problem is God is not Superman. God is not Batman. God is not gonna save the day every time and enable and create a codependent relationship with you where you do nothing and God does everything. So you got to be careful with deferred spiritual coping. The third style, and what's going to lead us into the text that we're going to discuss tonight, is called collaborative spiritual coping. It's called collaborative. Let the church say collaborative spiritual coping. Collaborative spiritual coping is when I do all that I can to address whatever adversity I'm experiencing. And after I do everything that I can, I have faith, I trust, and I believe that God is going to do for me what I cannot do for myself. Oh, we in deep tonight. We in deep tonight. This Bible study is not for the faint of heart. This is not for the faint of heart. No, we in deep tonight. Yeah. I do everything that I can. I do everything in my ability to address my situation, but I trust God. I believe God. I have faith in God that God is going to do for me what I cannot do for myself. That is collaborative spiritual coping. And for the sake of time, let me hurry on. That is what Paul illustrates or expresses in Second Corinthians chapter 10. That's what brings us to our text tonight. Paul writes this letter to the church at Corinth because he's dealing with critiques. He's dealing with his flaws, his shortcomings being pointed out. So he addresses this problem. He makes meaning of this problem. He addresses this issue in a collaborative nature in his walk with God. So watch how Paul addresses this emotional discomfort that he's experiencing. Watch how Paul addresses this, this psychological pain, if you will, that he's experiencing because he's experiencing a critique, a perception, what people are saying about him, how people are talking about him. So it's not a physical attack, it is an emotional and psychological battle attack that Paul is dealing with in this text. But watch how he deals with it. He says, watch this, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. He says, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. Watch how Paul makes meaning from this experience. He says, first of all, you all are attacking me. You all are criticizing and offering critiques about me. He says, but the truth is, what I have to do, I have to step back and understand before I get in my flesh, before I begin to defend myself, before I throw shade back at some of you for the critiques that you're throwing toward me. Before I get into that frame of mind, this is not a flesh fight. I remind myself I'm making meaning, I'm contextualizing my problem, understanding that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. Watch this, but mighty through God. I hope you didn't miss it. I hope you didn't miss it. I hope you didn't miss it. I'm going to say it again. The weapons of our warfare are not fleshly, they are not carnal, but mighty through God. Can't you see right there God doing God's part? Paul's recognition that God does for me what I cannot do for myself because the weapons that I have to fight with are mighty through God. God does God's part every time. God does God's part. The only way I can fight this battle is through God. The only way I can make sense of this battle is through God. The only way I can defend myself in this battle is through God. I can't fight fire with fire. I can't criticize you because you're criticizing me. No, I can't turn around and get in a mud fight, throwing mud and slinging mud with you because this is not a carnal fight. It's not a carnal battle a fleshly battle that you're engaged in. But the weapons that God has given us are mighty through God. God does God's part. Now look at what he says these weapons, mighty through God for, to the pulling down of strongholds. I don't know if I'm going to have time to dig into this as much as I want to, but real quickly. You remember in the Old Testament, David talked about strongholds. A stronghold for David was a cave or a hiding place where he could hide when Saul was after him and trying to kill him. So for David, a stronghold was a hiding place. But isn't it interesting that Paul uses this same language of a stronghold when he talks about the weapons that he has for fighting this spiritual battle? He says the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. So for Paul, a stronghold is not a cave, but for Paul, a stronghold is a way of thinking. For Paul, a stronghold is not a physical hiding place, but it's a hiding place for a certain carnal or fleshly mentality. I know it's heavy. For Paul, a stronghold is not a cave, it's not a physical hiding place, but the strongholds that Paul recognizes that needs to be pulled down are ways of thinking, seeing, and perceiving, and even addressing issues that come up internally. Well, Pastor Pete, how you come up with that? I came up with that from verse 5. Because look at what Paul says. In verse 5, he says, casting down imaginations. Where does imaginations take place? In your mind, in your way of thinking, in your thought processes. And every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, where is knowledge? In your mind, in your thought processes, in your way of thinking. And bringing into captivity every thought unto the obedience of Christ. Where are thoughts? In your mind, in your way of thinking, in your way of processing things. So the strongholds that Paul identifies or pulls down in this text does not have to do with a cave or a physical hiding place. It has to do with ways of thinking, how we process, how we think about our cognitive faculties, our cognition, how we deal with psychological pain, how we deal with emotional discomfort, how we deal with those internal struggles and those internal issues. As a matter of fact, this is what I put in my notes. For Paul, a stronghold is, or strongholds are intrusive and erroneous thoughts. Yeah. Intrusive and erroneous thoughts. The problem with intrusive and erroneous thoughts is that if we are not careful, those intrusive and erroneous thoughts can become obsessing and overwhelming. In other words, we will ruminate over those intrusive thoughts. Those intrusive thoughts will overwhelm us. They'll become so frustrating that we become overwhelmed with them. So watch what Paul says. He says, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God for the pulling down of strongholds, pulling down ways of thinking, pulling down erroneous thoughts, pulling down thought patterns and ideas that are intrusive and erroneous. And then he says, casting down imaginations. Casting down imaginations. I'm running out of time. I'm running out of time if I'm not already out. So I got to hurry up and cover this. I told you I'm excited about this because there's so much I want to share with you. He says, casting down imaginations. This is important. This is important. This is important. Watch this. Casting down imaginations is important because you cannot control your thoughts and your feelings. I'm going to say it again. You cannot control your thoughts and your feelings. Here's what I'm saying. Thoughts and feelings come and go all day long. You don't have to have your mind on anything in particular for certain thoughts to just pop up. You don't have to be in any particular mood for certain feelings to just come up. Thoughts and feelings come and go all day long. You cannot control your thoughts and feelings, but it is essential that you learn to manage your thoughts and your feelings. You can't control them. You can't stop them from coming or stop them from going. There have been times that sadness has come when you didn't want sadness to come. There are times that joy has left when you didn't want joy to leave. You cannot control your thoughts and your feelings, but it is essential that you develop skills to manage your thoughts and feelings or exercise something called emotional regulation. Yeah, it's essential that I learn to regulate my feelings and my emotions. And Paul says, look, you do that. You do that by casting down imaginations. When they come, you don't obsess over those imaginations. When they come, you don't obsess over those high things that exalt themselves against the knowledge of God. But when they come, you bring every thought captive unto the obedience of Christ. I can't control it when it comes and when it goes. From time to time in life, I experience emotional discomfort. I experience discomforting thoughts and ideas, but how I manage and relate to those is by bringing them captive to the obedience of Jesus Christ. Just because the thought comes up doesn't mean it's true. Just because the thought comes up doesn't mean it's real. Just because the feeling comes doesn't mean I have to serve or make that feeling my master. Here's what I'm saying to you, and I'm about to be done. I'm about to go ahead and wrap up because I've gone over time. Here's what I'm saying. Feelings, emotions, even certain thoughts are wonderful servants, but they are poor masters. Feelings come and feelings go. You can't control them, but you cannot allow them to master you. Yeah. You can't allow your feelings to cause you to behave in a way that you're going to have to go back and apologize for because you serve in your feelings. No, they're wonderful servants, but they are poor, poor masters. I'm completely out of time. I've gone over time, but for the next several weeks, we're going to be exploring this idea of group therapy through the lens of the Apostle Paul. What are some solutions that Paul offers for emotional regulation? What are some solutions that Paul offers for dealing with emotional discomfort? In this text, he says, look, cast down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bring every thought captive unto the obedience of Christ. But we're going to explore further what are some healthy solutions for addressing and managing emotional discomfort. Listen, if you don't know Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, right where you are, if you invite him in, he will come into your life. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to get up. As a matter of fact, right where you're sitting, standing, or laying right now, if you invite him in, he will come into your life. If you don't have a church home or a church family, let me invite you to be a part of Bethel Baptist Church. We meet at 10 a.m. Sunday morning, live in person at 1708 Spencer Avenue in the Pratt City community of Birmingham, Alabama. Come and be our special guest at Bethel Baptist Church. You will be so glad that you did. We all need a place and a people to whom we belong. And we would love to have you become a part of Bethel Baptist Church. Come worship with us. If you cannot be with us in person, join us in our virtual sanctuary. That's at 10 a.m. this Sunday morning on this same platform that you're watching us right now. Thank you for being a part of this time of study. Looking forward to continuing this study on next week. Until we meet again, God bless you and God keep you is our prayer.